Heading into last season, Justin Jefferson was the consensus #1 overall pick in fantasy football after taking the league by storm back in 2022. However, his hamstring injury and Kirk Cousins' torn Achilles derailed his season entirely, which leaves fantasy managers with more questions than answers ahead of the 2024 season. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Justin Jefferson's fantasy outlook to determine if he's a good pick at his current ADP. Real quick before we get started, if you want a full fantasy football draft kit with 250 player rankings and notes, as well as full in-season support for your start-sit questions, team grades, and more, make sure to become a member of Fall Ball Fantasy for the low price of under $1 per month. Join by becoming a member of this channel using this button right here. Now that we have that out of the way, let's get back to the topic at hand. The upside case for Justin Jefferson is pretty obvious, and it's that he's one of the most talented wide receivers of our generation. He's gone for 1,400 or more yards in every year of his career except for last year, and that's only because he missed 7.5 games due to a hamstring injury that he sustained all the way back in week 5. Despite that, he still had 66 receptions for 1,047 yards and 5 touchdowns in games where he played more than 50% of the team's snaps, which over the course of an entire season paces out to be about 125 catches for 1,978 yards and 10 touchdowns, which would amount to 383 PPR points on the year. With those numbers, he would have finished as the wide receiver 2 in PPR formats if he continued on that pace, being beat out only by CeeDee Lamb, who obviously had a terrific season last year. All of this is just to say that the man is one of the best players in the entire NFL. The craziest thing about his success last year was that he did it despite all of the bad circumstances around him. Beyond dealing with his own hamstring injury, he also had to deal with bad quarterback play. Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles in the middle of the season, and that left Jefferson catching passes from Nick Mullins when he returned from his injury. That didn't really even affect him, as he still finished as the wide receiver 3 in fantasy over that stretch and finished as the wide receiver 5 on the season in terms of PPR points per game. He finished as a top 4 wide receiver in yards per route run, and he proved at the end of last year that he can succeed without Kirk Cousins as his quarterback, which is an obstacle that he's going to face this year. And speaking of it, let's move on to that topic because it's one of the biggest reasons that people are fading Justin Jefferson in fantasy this year. The Vikings let Kirk Cousins walk and sign with the Falcons in free agency this offseason, and to replace him, they signed veteran Sam Darnold and drafted rookie JJ McCarthy out of Michigan with the 10th overall pick in the 2024 draft. Right now, it's undetermined which of them is going to be the starter for the team in week 1, but it seems like Sam Darnold is the favorite for the job at this point, with McCarthy more likely to take over in the middle of the season or after their bye week. And I'm just going to be honest, the quarterback play is going to be an issue at some points for Jefferson. Obviously, he proved to us last year that he can still be uber productive even with trash quarterback play, but it's still unlikely that he remains as good as he was with Kirk Cousins, who is definitely miles better than either of Minnesota's quarterback options. Another issue that's facing him this year is the stiff competition for touches on this offense. Jordan Addison had a breakout campaign in his rookie season last year after the team drafted him in the first round in 2023, and TJ Hawkinson has always commanded a good amount of targets when he's actually on the field. I don't really worry about either of these guys all that much though. Most of Addison's productions came while Justin Jefferson was injured last year, and his fantasy numbers were pumped up by his double-digit touchdowns, which almost certainly won't repeat this year. As for Hawkinson, he suffered a devastating knee injury towards the back half of the season in 2023, and it's unlikely that he returns to 100% health at any point in 2024. That leaves Justin Jefferson with the possibility of seeing a 29% plus target share, which would lead to a lot of fantasy success from him, even if he has to deal with some worse quarterback play than we're used to. As of the time of this video being recorded, Justin Jefferson is currently being drafted as the wide receiver 4 and 5th overall pick in the first round of PPR drafts. I'm not gonna lie, that's a pretty steep price, and I was definitely wary of it at first. But the more I think about it, the more I realize that it's not necessarily a bad pick. Like we talked about, Justin Jefferson was a top 5 wideout in fantasy points per game last year, despite everything going wrong for him. And even though his situation isn't exactly the best this year either, it should be good enough for his elite talent to continue to shine through, as it has throughout his entire career so far. He currently holds the wide receiver 4 spot on my big board and is the 7th overall player, so I'm fine taking him somewhere near his current ADP. He's not a screaming value in the first round, but I'm completely fine taking him anywhere that isn't in the top 3. In fantasy football, the most talented players are the ones able to overcome a bad environment, and Justin Jefferson is trending towards being one of the most talented wide receivers the game has ever seen. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more content like this, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a new drop. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, goodbye.